How did you meet your wife?
Well, there was her and 4 or 5 other girls from Livonia. Used to come over here and walk around the square like they all did. And then I had wheels. 72 years, the 28th of this month we've been married. The house up on the corner, my folks built in 45, and that's when we moved here. And I graduated in 46. I worked for Paul Beeler for 2 or 3 years after I got out of high school. I've had dealer's license almost since like 48. Oh yeah, I had my first car when I was 13. It was a Model T, 1926. It cost $10, but I didn't have $10. But I had some chickens, and I sold them I got $5. And my granddad needed a couple of tires for a boat trailer he was making, so he gave me $5. So I bought the Model T, and I run around Coatesville a little while. But anyway, yeah, I fixed it up. I painted it with a brush, made a canvas top for it, sold it for $10. And the post office was on the main drag, but I'd say these are south, and I can't imagine that many. There wasn't much going on at the depot when I was a kid. You know, I'm sure people went in and out of there, but it wasn't a whole lot going on by then that I can remember. My granddad being a postmaster, there was 2 trains came through there, one about midnight and one about 2 o'clock. And they'd almost stop and throw off mail, and he'd throw mail on. And a lot of times my dad would do it for him, and I'd go a lot of times. Coatesville had a pretty good-sized stockyard. It was on the east side of the road, and just north of the stockyards was the depot. It's still down at the Moeller farm. You can see it from the highway. See, there was Trimble's store. And there was a Trimble before Dick, it was Dick's uncle. Of course, Dick Trimble had the final store, the last store there, and I worked for him some. Delivered stuff in his old truck, took stuff down to the river. Yeah, there was 2 teachers then. No, yeah, 1 through 4, and then 5 through 8. There was the Gross sisters. They were from down here. They were from down here, and they both taught. I'm guessing at least 20 in each room, probably more. Yeah, that would been 8 classes. There was 2 rooms in the building. My granddad Veach had a blacksmith shop on that be the 2nd Street into town, which would have been west of the post office. They originally lived out east of town, and I've got his cell bill out home. They moved to town in 1914. He had it in there, anything over $5, he would finance it for, so long, for little nothing, That Modern Air was the best location. And you talk about business, it's unreal. And it would go, I think it'd go good again if the right person run it. My brother opened that in 54, and he run it day and night. And all the kids went to Modern Air. The kids that just started driving, they had to go to the Modern Air. We didn't have any choice. We were all in the same boat. I didn't know we were poor. Everybody was happy. Didn't have a clue. Yeah, I know when she's here. Everybody knows when she's here. Hey, I haven't told you anything, but I've got to get going.
That's all right, honey. Oh, you've told us a lot.
Where were you born?
Schuyler County, Missouri. In a house out, it's old Edmund Hall house there used to be. Yeah, north of Jack Childress' place.
And who were your parents?
Frank and Ivy Bruner. My mother was a Drake, Ira Drake's daughter. Oh my, the streets were full. You'd have to elbow your way up and down the street Saturday night. That's right. And later, after I got out of service, I worked for MFA a while, 4 or 5 years. And gosh, you test cream and bring their cream and eggs in and load them out about midnight. We didn't get out of there before midnight. Oh, every store was full, I think. I couldn't count them for sure, but I'd say there's about 3 or 4 dry goods stores. At least half a dozen service stations. Oh, and how many grocery stores? 1, 2, 3 or 4. Yeah. Oh yes, Larky Kelso ran it, Walter Kelso. I used to haul pickles to him when we lived out there when I was a kid. I had a team that hooked up, young horses hooked up, and I had a rubber-tired two-wheel trailer, and I'd haul pickles to town.
Where was the pickle factory?
About where, not far from where the fire station is, right in that area. Well, that wasn't for them. That was I.G. Ruth had pulled, my father-in-law pour that, and he was going to buy grain or something, and it didn't materialize, and they just sat there. Nothing. They're just like they were. Never put anything on it. but I went over on the Queen Mary. Well, I landed in Scotland, and then I went to England for 8-9 months, and then France on Omaha Beach. France, Belgium, Holland, Luxembourg, Germany. Charles and I, we compared notes later. Charles and I, the oldest boy, you and me, Charles probably, him and I were in Europe, and Max and Orrin was in the Pacific. I was in the Army 3 years, over 2 years and 5 days overseas, and the war was over. When it was over, I was on the dock in Marseille, France, waiting for a boat to come in. We had to load up and go around the Horn. I wasn't even going to get to come home, but they dropped the bomb and I came in. And did you know that road, do you remember when that road did not go straight through there? Yeah, but it didn't go straight through. It turned there at Jim Bruner's. You remember that?
Let me think about that. I am not sure.
Well, you're a lot younger than I am. But you turn in there at Jim Bruner's and go down to the Christian church was then, and then go back up the highway. Yeah. But Doc Gerwig lived on the right, and he used to have a team of horses, all pasture there. And it was muddy. He'd take them horses and throw mud and go out and deliver to kids and stuff. We was up there a time or two, and I remember one time going in a sled from out here where Jack Childers lives. This side of that church, was up on the highway. And in a sled, we went to Lancaster to the 11th of November, Armistice Day meeting up there, or celebration. Can you imagine driving up there that far? But we did for the team, that's fact. But these roads then, they're not like they are now.
What were they like?
You go up here and you turn a corner here, and you go here and here, and just about every section where you change is square corner, and a lot of them. Between Downing and Lancaster, probably 6-7 short corners. You just. Well, I
sure
forgot.
enjoyed you.
Is that
very much.
Is that the end of the report?
That's the end, if you want it to be the end.
If you have anything else?
I don't have it. I don't know what to tell you. I don't.
Well, we can always just get you again if we need.
Oh, yeah, add on. I feel like I haven't told you anything.
Yes, you have.
Was there anything else you'd like to ask this gentleman?
Gentlemen.
He thinks he hasn't told us anything.
Well, I haven't really.
So what year were you born?
1935, Glenwood, Missouri. Yeah. All of my brothers and sisters were born at home. Yeah, there's a lot of businesses in Glenwood. And we had Doc Johnson, doctor there, He's the one that delivered all of us kids except, my brother Peyton was born in Centerville, Iowa. And all the rest of the 8 of us was born on the farm south of Glenwood. My dad opened up a Standard Oil gas station in Glenwood. And the next fall we moved to town. And we went to 7th and 8th grade to Glenwood. And then through high school in Queen City. But see, when I went ready for high school, you could rent your school books from Queen City, but you had to buy them in Lancaster. The high school, you had to buy your books. So you could go to Queen City for, the books would only cost you like $3 to $5. So, and they run a bus up through Glenwood, first year, when I started high school. So we went to Queen City. But back in them days, if you went to high school, you had to buy all your books. We had 3 grocery stores, 2 barber shops. And when you come up, it's like a crossroads there in front of, where the Logan Bank is? There was a big pole light right in the middle there. You drove around it. You could come on the Blackhawk on Route M, and like you're going down to the elevator, well, there was a street light right there. And when the state took over all the roads, all the state roads, and they made them all blacktop, they eliminated that big light. Yeah, mail come out of Glenwood and Lancaster about 6 times a day when I was a kid. I've got a picture of the last train through Glenwood. I think 65 on the North Fork and Western. It was the Wabash. See, Glenwood was the main shipping point just because there were 2 railroads went through Glenwood and the competition was keen. The Burlington went north of Glenwood and over to Kearkirk. It come down from Centerville and went east. And there's the Glenwood Junction up there, and it used to be a big hotel up there. You see, the Wabash went on the west side of that, and the Burlington went on the other side of it. It's right in between them. Then the Wabash come from Des Moines, went through Glenwood going south to St. Louis. I've heard my mom tell about it when they drive elephants over there in the spring of the year and it'd be muddy. She said those holes where the elephants walked would be like the size of a cream can and 1.5 foot deep in the ground walking over there. They would walk them from Glenwood, from Lancaster to Glenwood and load them out on the train. Because Billy Hall shipped them all over the world. But now my great-grandpa, there was no automobile when his doctrine, he'd be gone 3-4 weeks at a time. Wherever his last stop was where he spent the night. Well, there wasn't even trains when he first started doctoring. He died in 1873, I think. He was the first medical MD in Schuyler County. Yes. But during the Civil War, it got so bad here, it's kind of like the Democrats and Republicans. They would burn say I was talking for the South or the North, they'd burn your barn. A lot of unrest. Well, Grandpa Joe Henry moved to Macomb, Illinois. But when he got over there, it was just as bad as it was here. So he come back and settled just north of Schuyler there at New Zion.
Oh, really?
And he was on the school board there for 3 or 4 years. Then he went over, where they built a new water tower on F west of Glenwood? He went over there just east of there and built a new house. Well, you're not getting very much, but I'm getting you all I got. I'm not sure I got any more to tell. I've led a pretty dull life.
Born west of 3 miles west of Greentop and lived on the same farm there 57 years. And so my grandpa started as a rural mail carrier in, I forgot, 1910. He carried the mail 35 years. He would go to town every morning, that's 6 days a week, and he'd come back by our house. It was just a time that my brother and I, as little boys, when the weather was nice, we could go with him. We were not supposed to. We would go with him around that mail route. I remember when we took pillows and take a nap in the back seat. We'd travel with Grandpa, and he'd stop at a mailbox. He'd take the mail out of the sack and read the name to it, hand it to us, and we'd put it in the box. And so when I was 5 years old, I knew the names of all the people that lived out there. And of course, he had 2 routes, and we just told us about the town. That's how I learned a bunch of things about Greentop when I was that age that I wouldn't have otherwise. I made a little sketch so I won't forget to tell you. North of the garage, there's a house. In the house was a switchboard, where somebody says a switchboard, and served that whole area. Now, out where I live, west of Greentop, you had your own company. You could call each other. If you wanted to call some other town, you have to crank the switchboard. I still could hear the lady's voice, Greentop! I knew our ring was 4 longs and a short. But I could still hear my mom. The phone rings, not for us. She said, oh, that's Carrie calling Alfie. Wonder what they're going to talk about. You could tell, the ring, and they learn their style. Also, there was a 911, 5 longs. Across the street north, where there was Jim Pierce grocery store, Dick Bell. And that was what had been the post office earlier. Next door to the little vacant lot, there were some people there who had a cafe, a little restaurant. The old post office, the bank building is still there. And you can buy a beer there. I can remember 2 different times when it was a restaurant down through the years after the bank was gone. They had a big bandstand there up and a roof on it, and they would have band concerts sometimes. And I remember in the summertime on Saturday night, if it wasn't raining, there were 2 guys who traveled around. They would come there and they'd put a tarpaulin across there and across the back, and they had just park benches in there. And they showed a movie. You paid to get into the movie. Next door, you still the building where the post office is now, that 2-story building. The building on the south side of it was a grocery store. It belonged to Ira Pierce, Jim Pierce's brother. In 1945, there was a grocery store there, a grocery store here, and a grocery store on the other side here. Other side of this, which is Route K now, there was another big building there. It's called a produce house. That's where they bought eggs and cream. Saturday night, you go to town, and you go and take your eggs and your cream, and they have to test it, so it'll be a little while you go back. So you do that first thing when you go to town, and then Mom goes in, they got it done, you get your money. That's when you go buy your groceries. That's when Saturday was a big deal. I remember on Main Street in Greentop, there's hardly any place to park a car. Kenneth Bell, Dick Bell's dad, he'd been, like during World War II, they go to Detroit or somewhere, work at a defense plant to make money. They came back and bought the grocery store from Jim Pierce. And so Jim Pierce went over there and got that one. So that was Bell's grocery store. That would have been, 1946 or 7. Back then, of course, the railroad went through there, and, in the middle of the night, they'd stop and pick up mail. And there was somebody whose job, that was his job. I had an uncle that did it in Queen City. But they would get late at night, they had a kid go to the post office, pick up mail, be out there, wait for the train. And sometimes the train might be an hour late or whatever, but in the middle of the night, that's what they did. Well, I'm keeping you guys.
Well, we sure appreciate you.
Oh, listen, I enjoy talking to you.
Wonderful.
No,
I like it.
I want you to
stay there all
remember.
day, I don't care.
I'm not a has-been, because I never quite was.
So where were you born?
I was born in the northwest part of this county, 1928. I've been here I've been in the county ever since.
Did it?
Do it again.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yep. How about you, Francis?
I was born in 1924.
Were you born in Schuyler County?
No,
Where were you
I'm a
born?
transport. I was born in Corvallis, Oregon. I'm the only one living, did work and started REA in this county. Very small office, just a bunch of reels in the back and 2 or 3 trucks.
No, I can remember, and there was very few electrical lines around here.
People had to read their own meters and send us in the reading, and we had to do it by hand, made a card and sent them a bill. They came in there and paid their bill, their light bill. And I remember going to their board meetings and taking their notes. I could do shorthand then. That was quite an event when I look back on it.
Oh, you don't
When
remember?
wasn't that theater in your old funeral home, Bill?
It's where they recently tore it down. That was it. They had a balcony upstairs and seats below. And I suppose through the history of the pictures, you can probably find some pictures of that.
I can remember when they built the tower out here. That was quite an attraction. But I remember we used to drive out there and watch them put that up.
Perry Stacy and I had a lot to do with getting the bookmobile to come in here. We were thrilled with that. When that thing would make a stop here, we could get up in that little bookmobile and check out a book.
There was a guy that did a lot for this community. It was Perry Stacy. He was involved in so much.
Worked at the Red Cross for years. Would try to run an ambulance. We had the ambulance service before we had the funeral home. I've driven that ambulance sometimes when Perry'd come out there and get on with me. Couldn't hardly walk or get up the steps and go with us on a trip.
You couldn't find a parking place. The town was full of people.
Oh, 3 grocery stores for 4 maybe, and all the women would come in our restaurant and sit and wait, or else they'd go till the theater was out, the show was out, and their kids got over there so they could go home. But they'd get their groceries and they'd come in there and wait. So the town was full.
Yeah. They would before they had this bandstand over here, they would put a bandstand up in the summertime, and they would have, the band would play on Saturday night. When that was, I was barbering here at the time, and we would open the barber shop up around 7 o'clock of a morning, and on Saturday night in the summer, it'd be 10 o'clock or after before we got out of the barber shop. We had Lou Smith. Lou Smith was here, and he had pretty nice clothes. He had good clothes, I thought.
I think his name was on the building till they tore it down.
He was in business there where MFA was. There isn't anything there now. It's the parking lot where the Baptist church is.
Well, he had one there where the insurance company or the pharmacy is, didn't he? That's why I see his name on the building.
Yeah, at the last he had
one
there. Yeah.
Well, thank you both. I don't know what else to ask you unless you just want
Well,
to
thank
have
you,
a
honey.
confession,
Well,
tell us some.
I've enjoyed it.
years.
I've enjoyed it. Yeah.
Who's your favorite child of all time?
He remembers stuff much better than I do.
A lot of the businesses.
All of the
still there.
buildings on the west side was full at that time. I don't think there ever was all around the square that I recall.
Well, the east side had homes built there.
Now Lauer's building is on east a block from the 63, used to be the main drag through Queen City. North side of the park was where the theater was when I was in high school, and that was owned by Graham's.
When Graham was there.
When Graham was there, he had good movies. And I don't remember being in Lancaster many times as a child. The one time that I do remember, I was in the car, and I was probably 7 or 8 years old, maybe, I don't know. But Bob Melvin and some other boys was climbing on the courthouse, and that was the old courthouse, of course. They were teenage boys, I recall that, but that's about the only time I remember being in Lancaster. Saturday night was a big night. I mean, you always put on the best clothes you had and went to town, and had shoes probably for the first time that week. Always went barefooted home, still do. And that school building was moved into Queen City and set there on the west side of the ball field. I think it was used for home economics. I don't know what else. That was Westland Grove School. Got my 8th grade education. We didn't drive that much.
No.
And I was about, well, for 6 years, I was 1.5 miles from school, and then it was a little more like 2 miles from school that I walked. And then I walked 1.5 miles out to W during my high school years. I went to Cass's the first year or two, and Bertie Jones brought us, and then Ray Howard McCartney fixed up an old truck and ran it then the last 2 years I was in school. It was open air. No, it was enclosed. There wasn't no heat or anything in it. No, it was more like a big old station wagon. There isn't any kind of mud like they had on W at that time. I remember we went into my brother's graduation in '45. Mom and I went that evening, and we stayed over at my aunt's, and we started home with a high-wheeled wagon, and we got probably a 1/2 mile, 1/4 mile west of the railroad tracks, and it was rolled up full of mud. And we finally got it punched out, went back to town, and stayed until, I don't know what happened. It rained or it froze or what it did. I think it must have froze the next night. But anyway, mud, you couldn't believe the mud.
I graduated in May. I got called up in September, and Dad had a lot of corn to pick, and I got 2 months deferred to pick corn, and then I went in November at 43. I got out in 46 with 2 of my brothers and me.
All at the same time?
Yeah, we was all overseas at the time. Well, I was on a ship, and my younger brother married Doris Holly Middleton. He was on Guam, island over toward Japan, and my older brother was in the Army. He was in Europe. Him and I got home the same day. James, my younger brother, he got home, and we got home in April, and he got home in July. He was younger. He enlisted while he's still at school. So when he was 18, they called him up. He left before school's out, so my mom got his diploma when they graduated.
Well, thank you both so much. Are you sure you don't want a bottle of water for the road?
No, we're not very far from home.
Okay.
Now, if you'd said coffee, I might have took you off.
Well, I've got a plan all right. You and me gonna dance tonight. Spin around in the living room. Gonna start real soon. 5, 6, 7, 8. Anticipate your every move and every twirl. I'm your boy and you're my girl tonight. Let's dance a dance tonight. Let's dance a dance tonight. Tonight might be the very last time we move as one and have the words all rhyme. The whole world comes crashing in. We float around and then we spin again. It's been a while since we moved together. Tricky times and chilly weather. I've got a radio, 5, 6, 7, 8. Baby, let's go tonight. Let's dance a dance tonight. Tonight. Let's dance a dance tonight. Let's dance a dance tonight. Tonight. Let's dance a dance tonight. Tonight.